Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of dense source material excerpts from investigations, internal intelligence reports, and detailed personal accounts, and extract the core knowledge you need to be well-informed.
Yeah, and today we've got some really fascinating stuff.
We absolutely do. Today, we are deep diving into a world where former spies, Russian organized crime, and profound family secrets violently collide right in the heart of London.
That's right. The material we have in front of us is incredibly layered. It's not just a simple murder mystery. It's really an expose of institutional dysfunction, isn't it?
Really is.
We're tracking a complex espionage mystery that goes back decades, looking at this agonizing tension between, family loyalty and institutional cynicism.
Right.
And at the same time, we're detailing the highly sophisticated and sometimes weirdly mundane mechanics of transnational money laundering happening right here in the UK.
It's quite a mix. Our sources immediately drop us into the cold reality of a winter assassination, forcing us to trace the life and, frankly, the brutal death of Christopher Keane, a former SIS officer.
But that's just the start.
That is only the beginning. Our mission today is to untangle not only who killed Christopher Keane, but why his son Mark became a compromised MI5 informant, and how their joint tragedy exposes these deep-seated, almost self-serving failures within the British intelligence community. All while tracking, believe it or not, a deadly Russian ghost from the Cold War.
A lot to cover.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
So we start, interestingly, not with the victim, Christopher Keane, but with the killer.
Yeah, the sources put us right there.
Right in the moment. They immerse us directly into the atmosphere surrounding that first crime scene. Inside a rented Mercedes-Benz, snow falling softly late in the evening.
Then Sinatra playing quietly on the radio.
Exactly, Sinatra. And the man behind the wheel, he's just called the Russian. Throughout the sources, he's watching the city, and he has this thought, doesn't he, about his life.
Yeah, that so much of it has been lived inside parked cars. It's such a bleak line.
It really is. A measure of his career, essentially, as a professional predator.
And the details about him immediately tell you something about his training, but also his age.
Definitely. He's meticulous. He notices, for example, this worryingly thin young London girl walking past. And then he uses the passenger side mirror to watch people passing behind him. An old technique, the source calls it.
Effortless situational awareness. No head turning, just watching.
But crucially, there's also this hint of physical decline, isn't there?
Yes. The stairs.
Yeah.
The detail is so telling.
Precisely. He's targeting a flat on the 4th floor, but when he gets inside the building, he takes the elevator up to the 5th floor.
Walks down one flight.
Right. And he justifies it to himself, citing stiff legs, needing to preserve strength for what's coming.
So this isn't some young hitman.
No, not at all. This is a veteran, skills honed over decades, but, the body's starting to catch up with him.
And his mindset, it's not just mercenary work, is it? The sources are quite clear on that.
Not at all. They explicitly say this act isn't really about vengeance anymore. Too much time has passed for that.
Right.
Instead, it's become this deep need to attain some level of peace, to sew up the wound of his grief.
Almost compulsive. Like a lust, the text says.
Exactly. A compulsion. It points straight towards a personal, very emotional motive tied into that Cold War history we'll definitely get into later. It sets it apart completely from your standard mob hit.
And his entry into the building, pure professional mechanics.
Textbook. As he goes towards the door, a woman happens to be leaving.
Just bad timing.
Or good timing for him to show his skills. He instantly looks down, pulls out this big bunch of ordinary keys.
Looking like any other resident fumbling for the right one.
Perfect camouflage. Instinctive. And he clocks the technical details, too. The timer switch on the stairwell light.
2 minutes of light. Then darkness.
He's accounting for every single variable.
Then he gets inside Keane's apartment. And alongside the smell of good fresh coffee.
There's this domestic little detail.
The Post-it note.
Yeah, stuck right on the kitchen door frame. Call tap low re.
Wow.
Crap.
Just moments before the attack. That little note is like the first thread connecting Keane's life, his son Mark, and this whole tangled investigation.
It's critical, but the killing itself, it doesn't bring him what he wanted.
No catharsis.
None. The sources are really clear. He feels no release at all. Just a specialist's expertise, an absolute focus on the job in hand.
Performing like a machine in a corrupted life.
Yeah. He shoots Christopher Keane immediately, single shot, left side of the chest.
And then in those final seconds, he speaks to him in Russian.
Chilling, demanding, do you know who I am? Do you know why I've come?
And Keen, dying, just shakes his head. He doesn't know.
The assassin realizes the whole thing was, well, hopeless. He hasn't found peace. He just feels the basic fear of being discovered.
And his escape plan confirms the personal motive, doesn't it?
Absolutely. No mention of handlers or payment. His plan is to flee London and go to a specific grave in Samarkand.
To tell someone named Misha what he's done.
And this is where it all starts to unravel. We know the killer is Dmitry Kostov, driven by grief for his son, Misha. But this deeply personal crime is about to get twisted, weaponized by organized crime figures trying to cover their own tracks.
And that personal tragedy of Kostov's is echoed, in a way, by the Keen family's own drama.
Absolutely. Christopher Keen's murder might have Cold War roots, but the emotional fallout is all about modern family resentment, failed connections.
So Christopher Keen, the victim, former SIS, that's MI6 officer, he walked out on his family, his wife Carolyn, and the two sons, what, 25 years ago?
Yeah, a long time. And that abandonment just detonated inside the family. The way the sons dealt with it basically shaped who they became as adults.
You've got Mark Keen, the older son. He works as a senior exec at the Libra nightclub.
Mark's the pragmatist, isn't he? Described as a lot more forgiving than his brother.
Kind of a let bygones be bygones attitude.
Right. He stayed in touch with Christopher, even went on business trips with him. His loyalty, maybe just his ability to compartmentalize, makes him the link back to his father's complicated post-spy life at Devizar Corporate Intelligence.
And then there's Ben Keen, the younger son, the artist.
Ben is defined by the grudge. It's extreme foundational. He basically decided his father ceased to exist the day he left.
The sources suggest it was a defense mechanism.
Yeah, like a necessary psychological shield, protecting him from facing harder choices. If he let go of the anger, he'd have to confront his father as a real, flawed person, not just this convenient villain he'd constructed.
And that resentment wasn't private.
No, very public. Ben and his wife, Alice, who's a journalist, importantly, they deliberately left Christopher Keen's name off their wedding announcement in the Times.
Ouch. A clear statement. You are nobody to me.
Exactly. But someone did try to bridge that gap.
Mark and Alice, right? They set up a meeting.
Yeah, between Ben and Christopher at the Savoy Grill, but the setting itself was maybe doomed from the start.
Why that?
Well, Christopher Keen chose this very formal, almost intimidating place, a time warp of Imperial England, the text calls it. Not exactly conducive to, heart-to-heart reconciliation.
It prevented any real intimacy.
Completely. Ben felt trapped, maybe manipulated. He just defaulted to contempt.
Launched into an attack accusing Keen of the vanity of the spy.
Yeah, arguing that Keen only wanted reconciliation for selfish reasons to convince himself of his blamelessness. He basically accused his father of seeing everything, even family, as games, little intrigues, and power struggles.
Devastating. And the meeting just collapsed.
Total failure. Ben walked out early. Christopher Keen went home totally dejected that night, just before he was murdered.
And that brings us back to the post-it note.
Exactly. The last thing he does, reeling from that failed meeting with Ben, is write that note, call Taplow Riem. His failure with one son makes him focus on the other, Mark. And that sets Mark on this incredibly dangerous path.
So Taplow, Stephen Taplow. This name pulls us into the intelligence world and the organized crime side of things.
Right. Keen was meeting Taplow because of his work for Devizar, this corporate intelligence firm, specifically advising Sebastian Roth's company, Libra.
On their Russian operations.
Yeah. Keen, using his old SIS network, was doing due diligence for Libra staffing, tax issues, navigating the necessary corruption for expanding into Russia.
Necessary corruption.
Yep.
Nice phrase.
Well, that's the reality. And Keen confirmed to Taplow, who we now know is MI5, the domestic security service, that Libra's lawyer, Thomas Macklin, was slightly obsessive about something called the roof.
The roof. Crucial jargon, that.
Absolutely. It's the euphemism for the whole network of protection. Money, bribes, payoffs you need to operate in certain places, literally covering your head, crossing palms.
And Keen admitted he pointed Macklin towards who?
Viktor Kukushkin, whom Keen identified as an avtoritet.
Which means?
A new style mobster. It's significant. It means Kukushkin isn't bound by the old codes, the old Vori via Zakon traditions. He's modern, adaptable, ruthless, perfect for running these complex international schemes.
So Keen was the bridge between Roth, the legit London nightclub owner, and Kukushkin, the unpredictable Russian crime boss.
He was the essential link. And his murder forces MI5, forces Taplow to act fast.
A moment Ben Keen turns up to identify his father's body, He spots Taplow there.
Yep, plain clothes, trying to manage the scene, manage the narrative right from the start.
And Taplow tells Ben it might just be a fluke, not a mob hit.
Yeah, dismisses it because it didn't fit the usual Kukushkin style, the motorcycle hit, the Rezborka, which tragically we see later. But at this point, Taplow is already lying, already setting the stage for deception.
Because his real goal was...
ruthless and immediate. Recruit Mark Keene, codename Blindside.
It's incredibly cynical.
Totally. He uses Mark's job at Libra, sure, but much worse, he exploits Mark's raw loyalty to his murdered father, pitches it as just a favor initially, then quickly turns him into a source gathering evidence against Macklin and Roth.
And Mark turns out to be good at it.
Surprisingly good. The sources say he had a genetic facility for the double life, an immediate knack for spying, maybe inherited from the father he was trying to forgive.
Then the MI5 analyst, Paul Quinn, briefs Mark on what he's actually dealing with.
Yeah, Quinn lays out the scale of the Kukushkin operation for him, explains how the syndicate needs businesses with a high-volume cash element, hotels, cabs, clubs like Libra.
Wash the dirty money.
Exactly. Launder the cash from narcotics, prostitution, arms deals, make it look legitimate.
But there's a twist within the network itself. Macklin, the lawyer.
Ah, yes, Macklin. He was double-dipping.
Fuming.
He wasn't just helping the Russians launder their money, he was skimming off the top for himself. Big time.
Oh my God.
Faking invoices, doubling Libra's reported weekly turnover for about 18 months, managed to stash around $1.8 million in a secret offshore account. Pentagon investments, Cyprus.
Stealing from the Russian mob.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a great long-term career plan.
It's incredibly dangerous. It shows you how messy these operations can be, though. It's not always neat lines of command. And the human cost. Quinn also revealed the prostitution ring.
Right. Running inside the Libra network. Run by Philippe Derlangner, a Belgian exec at Libra.
And Vladimir Tamarov, Kukushkin's #2 in the UK. Chillingly referred to as lawyer, read gangster.
And they were trafficking women from Eastern Europe.
Yeah. Luring them with fake job, offers au pairs, waitresses, then taking their passports, forcing them into prostitution to pay off these fictional debts.
And Mark realizes some of the barmaids he worked with
Were being cycled through Tamarov's escort agencies. A horrifying discovery for him.
So Mark's fully invested now,
Yeah.
which leads to this MI5 operation, Macintosh Clap.
Right. MI5 needs hard proof. So they staged this massive computer virus attack at Libra Soho.
Creating chaos.
Exactly. And Mark, as the senior exec on site, directs the supposed IT technicians, who are actually MI5 specialists, giving them full access. Hard drives, servers, the office safe.
The works, the sources detail the choreography, don't they?
They do. While the tech guys are copying everything digital, another specialist is calmly cracking the basement safe, photographing all the contents, getting the physical evidence.
And Mark's just watching.
Watching from the doorway, feeling the thrill of his participation, as the source puts it.
But it nearly blew up in their faces.
Came incredibly close. This alert temp Rebecca. At reception, she does exactly what she's supposed to do when the system crashes.
Calls the real IT support company.
Bingo. Mark has to think fast. Uses needing coffee as an excuse to get Macklin out of the office, sprints back to the phone, cancels the legitimate IT guys just moments before they would have walked in.
Wow. Talk about a close call. Knife edge stuff.
Absolutely. Highlights the risks, the fragility of this kind of inside job.
So MI5 gets its evidence. They've got the goods on Kukushkin's network. But the official story about Christopher Keen's murder is still murky. Which pulls us into this whole other layer. Geopolitics, history, cover-ups.
Exactly. It's just when you think it's about money laundering, the story takes this dramatic turn back towards espionage. Because Ben Keene receives a letter.
From Robert Bone, former CIA station chief, knew his father back in the day.
And this letter is a bombshell. Bone claims Christopher Keene wasn't killed over Divisor or Libra. He says it goes way back to a disastrous joint CIA-ISIS operation in Afghanistan.
During the Soviet-Afghan War, the 80s.
Right. Bone lays out this tragic story. Keene was a mentor to a young Soviet soldier they'd recruited as an agent, Misha Kostov.
But Misha got blown.
Exposed, and then executed by Soviet court-martial. And Bone alleges that's why Christopher Keene was murdered decades later in London.
Revenge.
Carried out by Mista's father, Dmitry Kostov, who himself was KGB, Department V, Mokry Dela, wet jobs, assassinations.
So Kostov Sr. found Keen's name on a published SIS list and hunted him down. After all those years.
That's Bone's claim. He even gives aliases Dmitry used, Kalugin, Pseudoplatov, Solovyov. For Ben, this must have felt like confirmation. Proof of the institutional betrayal he always suspected connected to his father's past.
But then Ben takes this letter to MI6, to Jock McCreary, Keen's old colleague.
And McCreary doesn't just dismiss it. He actively tries to tear the whole Afghan story down.
It's pure counterintelligence, isn't it?
A masterclass in deflection. He calls Bone paranoid, says the CIA agent fabricated the story to cover their failure, insists Misha Kostov was purely a CIA source, not SIS.
Throws in personal insults, too. Calls Bone an Anglophile who loved a bit of posh, trying to discredit the source.
Exactly. And then McCreary offers an alternative theory for Keen's murder.
Back to the money.
Back to the money. Suggests it was linked to Keen's devisor work for some Swiss bank, or these supposedly suspicious calls Keen made to a Timothy Lander in the Cayman Islands.
He's deliberately creating a financial motive to replace the politically damaging espionage one.
Precisely. It's all about protecting the institution. McCreary tells Ben explicitly to keep quiet, especially keep it from Alice, the journalist wife.
That shows how scared MI6 is of this getting out.
Terribly scared. The truth, a former KGB assassin hunting old SIS officers in London, would shatter public confidence. McCreary's job isn't finding truth, it's damage control for the service, protecting the institution, not the dead man or his family.
But the journalist wife, Alice, doesn't let it go.
Thank goodness for Alice. She uses her skills, her contacts. She tracks one of those aliases Bone provided Leonid Sudoplotov.
And she finds something.
She finds UK immigration records. A Russian national, matching Kostov's description, 63 years old, new passport, entered the UK December 1st. Left December 12th.
And Keen was murdered.
Night of December 11th. The timeline fits perfectly.
Undeniable. It proves McCreary lied. The KGB ghost story, the Afghan connection, it's real.
And for Ben, this is huge. It forces him to finally drop that protective grudge and face the reality of his father, the hidden man, and the darkness of the institutions that ultimately failed him.
So now Ben knows his father was killed by this KGB assassin, Kostos. Meanwhile, his brother Mark is tangled up with MI5, hunting the same Russian network, but focused purely on the money laundering.
It sets up this incredibly painful confrontation between the brothers. Ben pushes Mark, wants the truth about what Mark's actually doing.
And Mark, still influenced by Taplow, pushes back hard.
Very hard. He tells Ben the Kostov story is total bullshit, calls it a red herring made up by Kukushkin to mislead them.
Which is ironic because...
Because his own handler, Taplow, is doing exactly the same thing, feeding Mark a limited narrative to keep him focused on the financial crime and away from the embarrassing MI6 angle.
But Ben's not buying it anymore. He's hooked.
He needs to know the real threat. He insists on going with Mark to his next meeting with Vladimir Tamarov, Kukushkin's number 2, the lawyer gangster.
Where's this meeting?
A lap dancing club in Finchley. Classy.
Right, so Ben goes along.
Yeah. The scene is just as you'd expect. Loud, crass, Macklin's there getting drunk. But then Tamarov does something unexpected.
What was that?
He pulls Ben aside, the artist, and starts this serious, highbrow chat about modern art, criticizing the lowest common denominator of British culture.
A gangster talking art criticism in a lap dancing club.
It's bizarre, but the sources emphasize it. Tamarov's testing Ben, maybe showing off his own intellect, but then it gets deeper.
How so?
He shares something personal, reveals he also lost his father when he was 17, talks about the trauma of sorting through a dead man's things, quotes an American author, "There is nothing more terrible than to face the objects of a dead man."
Wow. Finding common ground in grief in that place.
A fragile, unexpected solidarity of sober men, the source calls it. A connection Mark, the spy, probably couldn't have made. It shows that shared human experience, even with someone like Tamarov.
But the key piece of information that night comes from?
Not the sober gangster, but the drunk lawyer, Macklin.
Who does he let slip?
Still shouting over the music, he blurts out that Timothy Lander, the guy McCreary tried to paint as some shady Cayman Islands contact involved in Keen's death, is just an old friend who runs a diving school. Macklin even says he tried to set Keen up with Lander for a holiday just before the our accident.
No, that completely demolishes McCreary's story.
Absolutely. Confirms Keen's contacts were legit, proves McCreary's sophisticated deflection linking Keen's death to finance was a total lie, cooked up to protect MI6.
So now Ben knows for sure.
Yep.
The Afghan ghost story is real, MI6 lied, and his brother is neck-deep in the consequences.
And unfortunately, Mark has become careless, suffering from what the sources call spy arrogance.
Thinks he knows best.
Yeah, ignores Taplow's calls, wants to act alone. Tamarov sees this weakness, he sets a trap. calls Mark, arranges a quick preliminary meeting at his new restaurant in Hackney before the main dinner. It isolates Mark, takes him off his usual surveilled routes.
And MI5 loses him.
The tail car, driven by Ian Boyle, loses Mark Saab in the tricky streets around Islington. That momentary lapse in surveillance is fatal.
The hit happens then.
Right then. On Balls Pond Road, a motorcycle pulls up alongside Mark's car.
Presumably Duchev, Kukushkin's Latvian muscle.
That's the strong implication. The shooter fires through the car window, kills Mark instantly.
And the style.
It's the Razborka, the classic Russian mob hit, the very style Taplow initially dismissed when talking about Christopher Keen's murder. It instantly proves Mark was killed because of his word against Kukushkin. They knew he was a source.
Oh, God, what a mess. Taplow has to tell Ben and Alice.
Yeah, takes them to a safe house, breaks the news, recalls Tamarov's earlier chilling words about screaming animals. The MI5 operation, technically successful in gathering intel, is now a disaster. Their source is dead, killed by the targets.
And the criminals scatter.
Immediately. Macklin, already in New York, gets a call presumably from Roth and bolts straight to Grand Cayman.
Which ironically proves Roth was involved all along.
Exactly. Taplow sees it as conclusive proof, and Philippe Derlaner, the Belgian running the trafficking ring, is picked up drunk at the lap dancing club.
Mark's murder forces everyone's hand.
Yeah.
Leads to this big showdown meeting between the agencies.
Oh, yeah. An emergency, extremely tense meeting. Taplow and Quinn from MI5 facing off against McCreary and Elizabeth Dulong from Seismi-6 and the MOD.
And it starts with a shocker.
A huge one. MI6 admits they had audio surveillance running on Taplow and Quinn's anti-Kukushkin operation the whole time.
MI6 was spying on MI5 during a major operation.
Definition of a turf war. Protecting their own interests above cooperation.
And then the full truth about Christopher Keen's death finally comes out.
Laid absolutely bare. MI6 admits Kostov, the Afghan assassin, was real.
Oh.
Worse, McCreary admits MI6 tracked Kostov, knew he was in the UK, knew he was targeting Keen.
And did nothing.
Deliberately kept silent. Let him kill a former colleague.
Why? What possible justification could they have?
McCreary defends it. Prioritizing organizational secrecy and reputation over Keen's life, he argues a public scandal, KGB assassin kills ex-SIS officer in London, would cripple their ability to recruit assets globally. It would make them look incompetent, unable to protect their own.
Quinn must have lost it.
Absolutely exploded. He's just lost Mark, his asset. He accuses MI6 flat out of a cover-up to hide the fact they let Kostov kill 2 British assets, Keen and now Mark. Says McCreary is just there to make sure we MI5 take the heat. Shift the blame.
Unbelievable cynicism. But it gets worse, doesn't it? The Kukushkin deal.
Even worse. McCreary reveals MI6 has already cut a deal, negotiated directly with Viktor Kukushkin, Tamarov's boss, who, get this, was an old friend of the assassin, Kostov, from school.
Small world, what's the deal?
It's staggering. Kukushkin agrees to arrange the supposed extradition of Dmitry Kostov to the UK.
Giving MI6 a win.
A fake win. In exchange for MI6 allowing the Kukushkin crime organization to continue operating in the UK with reduced interference.
Reduced interference. They're agreeing to let this massive criminal enterprise, drugs, guns, trafficking, keep going, just slightly less bothered.
That's the deal. In exchange for handing over Kostov, who the Russians probably wanted gone anyway by this point, Quinn is appalled, threatens to quit, mocks the idea Kukushkin will ever honor it.
But Taplow agrees.
Reluctantly. Sees his career ending, faces the political reality, chooses stability, managing the ongoing Kukushkin threat over justice for the Keens. The system protects itself, even if it means making a deal with the devil.
And Quinn was right. The Russian side immediately betrays the deal.
Instantly and cynically. Juris Duchev, the Latvian suspected of killing Mark, is tasked with taking Kostov from his hiding place at a Kukushkin property to the airport for this supposed extradition.
But that's not the real plan.
Not a chance. Duchev apparently hates Kostov personally, feels Kostov's personal vendetta ruined London for their business. A phone call confirms the real plan, to foil the British and end Dmitry's lies. Kostov isn't going anywhere near a British court.
So what happens to Kostov?
The sources paint a grim picture. Duchev drives Kostov, who's tired and sleeping in the back, deep into the woods outside Moscow.
And the MI6 surveillance.
Neutralized. As planned by Kukushkin, a Russian police car pulls over the SIS tail car. MI6's cynical deal collapses before it even begins.
And Kostov.
Executed while asleep. Single shot to the head. Then Duchev strips the body, removes teeth, fingerprints, burns the body in the Audi. Utterly erased.
And the Russians.
The sources end it chillingly. Already on their way home, now they can go back to business. The KGB ghost, the cause of all this, eliminated not by justice, but by the very criminals MI6 just struck a deal with.
Wow. It's just, the disconnect is staggering, isn't it? Between the real human cost, Ben's grief, Mark's loyalty, their deaths, and this cold, cynical institutional game being played.
That's the absolute core of it. The agencies weren't aiming for justice for the Keens. Their goal was survival, managing their reputation, keeping control, or the illusion of control, even if that meant sacrificing people and cutting deals with organized crime.
So that's the big takeaway here, you think? That the reality of intelligence isn't cloak and dagger heroics, but bureaucratic infighting and self-preservation.
Pretty much. MI6 spying on MI5, the CIA blaming SIS. It all trumped actually solving the murders or protecting their people. It wasn't about the truth. It was about controlling the narrative around the failures.
The hidden man wasn't just Christopher Keen's past.
No, it was the hidden truth behind everything. Especially the loyalty factor. The loyalty among the criminals, Kukushkin and Tamarov, proved more solid in its own brutal way than any institutional loyalty within the government.
So what does this all mean? We've seen the killer, Dmitry Kostov, taken out by his own associates, Kukushkin and Tamarov, basically just to tidy things up for their business.
Yeah, he became an inconvenience, an obstacle to smooth operations.
Right. So given how ruthlessly the Kukushkin network dealt with Kostov, one of their own, an old friend even, just to keep their London business running smoothly,
Yeah.
what makes us so sure that Christopher Keen and Mark Keen were the only problems they decided to eliminate along the way?
That's a really chilling thought, isn't it? How many other inconveniences might have been removed to protect that operation? The Keens were just collateral damage in this much larger game. A game that, thanks to MI6's deal, is essentially still ongoing.